And just a quick roll call. So members, Chairperson Barbara Pelletier, acknowledged by here. Yep. Jim or James Pelletier. And Peter Bramante, myself here. And Leslie Poldervart is not present today, but we do have a quorum. There is no consent agenda, so we can move right on to our first item, which is just reviewing the policy regarding fundraising and the restricted account use, and how, as we prepare to sort of get back into working and providing some projects for the benefit of the town, some questions around our ability to fundraise and also use matching funds. So a number of the opportunities we have, I mentioned to you, Bill, and I think Chris, any state or federal dollars need to be matched. And so it's important for us to be able to have a basis of funding to be able to apply for grants for various projects that we might want to undertake, so that we can leverage the either whatever the town's contribution is or money that we raise privately to be included as part of the match for any grants from those sources. Certainly, a lot of private foundations don't require the match, but the municipal, federal, and state funds do. So we had a question around the budget allocation for this year, but I think what came up, and there was some confusion from how, and we haven't been able to operate for 18 months, so it's a little bit different perhaps. But if there is a question, or if there is around the various entities that are private businesses, corporations in town, in terms of being able to solicit funds from them.
First of all, before you start soliciting any money, on behalf of the town council needs to know what you're doing as far as, it's not so we can just go around and start soliciting money without there being a program which we're soliciting for. So that's an issue in and of itself. I mean, so I don't have a problem with soliciting money, but like the recreation commission's out there soliciting funds right now,
right?
Matching a grant. They've been before the town council. They've laid out their program. They show what they get for a grant, what their match is, how much we're contributing locally, and how much they're looking for contributions from the council to kind of plus that. So it's not every public entity can just go start soliciting funds without actually going to the town council to release it.
Okay. Well, so this is a bit of a change from how and I'm new to the Arts Council, and but in the past, I mean, besides operating the gallery and doing public events, there was never a program of work that was submitted to be approved by the town council. If you're saying there's a change
it's not a program of work, it's a program of solicitation on behalf of the community. Because when you go to solicitation, as I've been dealing with recreation and some members of the dog park right now, because I know that you raised some money, but they were running without any kind of approval to do what they were doing.
But the dog park initially didn't start out to be a municipal or a town board, an official town.
But it is.
It is now, yes. And we ran into that with Tiverton Celebrates, that it was independent.
So
it makes it easier to raise funds. And as a matter of fact, I didn't realize that Tiverton had a list of people that should not be solicited from, and it would be nice to have that list.
No, so there's a misnomer here. There are times when we would not solicit from somebody that we're in some sort of negotiation. So the Tiverton Power Plant will come to mind right now.
How is that?
Yes, are you
it's not announced to the public. That's the issue.
No. These are not members of the public.
And that's my question, actually. Are you going to accept?
So volunteer members should not be out just voluntarily soliciting money from businesses on behalf of the town without the town knowing it. I didn't know you were out there soliciting money. That's the issue. We had no idea why you were soliciting money. And it wasn't on behalf of the Arts Council.
But it was like around Christmas, the Tiverton Casino gave us $5,000.
I know, and I had no idea. I was also I was
But
on
at that point, we weren't even part of
You're
the,
conflicting with what we're trying to do with the community without communicating with the community.
So I think we need to take a step back a second, and I would suggest then, and again, I said I'm new to this commission, and I understand what your point is from a municipal sort of point of view. I think the way, and it's not to justify it, I think the way that things have worked in the past did not have that level of clarity around it. And so the Arts Council, like many of the boards and commissions, was kind of working independently on the behalf of the town with only the best interests in mind.
I get the interest, and I applaud the efforts, but there are times it becomes a conflict to what we're trying to achieve from other things that you have no part in.
So what I think may help then, and this is why I talked about a program of work, because I think with a program of work would come a budget. And so what I'm saying is that I think what I'm hearing, you need to have the commission determine what it would like to do and what that's going to cost and what amount of that has to be raised versus contributed by the town. And we would come and put that before the town council for its approval. And so and this also goes back to my other point about predictability, about what sort of a budget would we be allocated so that we could then use for matching funds. So
right now, the town doesn't have a pocket of money that we use for matching funds, because I didn't know, as we were putting the budget together, that you had any particular projects.
Right.
So that's an issue, but that doesn't mean that we can't find money.
Right. Well, so I think the thing is then is when and how this works in the calendar, because obviously, anything that we want to do needs time to be planned for, but also it should align with.
Right. Well, like right now, the town council is boxed out of adding to their budget. Right. Their deadline is, and it's well past the normal deadline because of COVID, which was a confidential referendum into July when it would normally be in May.
Right.
So that deadline would have been like a month ago. It's a little better had we've been on the normal course.
And do you know at this point, because normally there was an allocation to the Arts Commission on a general basis, I don't. It had been 1,500, and then it was cut in that last budget cycle.
And I believe it stayed cut during this cycle as well. Because we are still well over the levy amount that we're allowed to levy taxes.
Well, I know when I first got involved, even as little as 5 years ago, it was only 125, and then it was up to 500.
And then up to 1,500.
That's, I mean, we've never had more than
so,
500.
And Bill, this may be a question for you as well, but what I understand from Chris then is there no longer any opportunity to look to see about any additional dollars allocated to the Arts Council?
There would be through the budget. They're the only ones who can actually add to the budget and subtract from the budget.
Okay. And how would one petition to do that, or?
So I'm assuming, I don't even know if they would entertain it, because it would normally come as part of the town's budget when it gets to them.
Okay.
But it would be a letter to the chairman, just explaining that, that there's a misunderstanding as to how this appropriation process works, and that you have, I don't know what your plans are, what your goals are, what your program of work is that you're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Lay that out to them, and they may or may not consider it.
Well, hypothetically, a few years ago, I wrote an arts grant application to the Rhode Island State Council of the Arts, and we had just done an awful lot of things with the community engagement, like the community piano and Rooster that everyone signed at the, it was a whole bunch of stuff, and they were really thought that we were deserving of money, and I applied, I think, for around 3,000, roughly speaking, and they kept calling me back. If we can't get matching funds, they would give it to us, but there was absolutely no matching fund available in the town, so we had to forfeit that. So, which is rather disappointing. So, is there any emergency kitty that the town puts forth?
The only fund that would have any ability to do that would be the town council. And from my experience, at least over the last year and a half,
it will wipe it out, yeah.
And from all the years I was on the budget committee, it's very rarely would they utilize it. they would use it for truly as an emergency. But that doesn't mean at the end of the year, if they have extra money, that they might consider something.
But sometimes you need it like almost right away because
I
there's
know.
the deadline and there's a,
I know, when we go for this, when I try to get police grants and fire grants, we have matching pieces as well. But they have appropriations with money that they can opt to either spend or not spend. So it's
Chris,
not
with,
necessarily about the pocket of money, floating around. And even though we have money in the general fund, doesn't make it available unless it's appropriated.
I had just one other clarifying question, and then we can get to maybe how we can sort of navigate through this and put forward a proposal of what we're planning to do with the budget. But the other piece was about, in terms of the restricted account that exists for the Arts Council, and there are others like the dog park and Tiverton Celebrates or whatever it's called. Is it true that if all of the funds in those accounts are not expended on an annual basis, that is subsumed back into the general fund, so they can remain? We don't have to.
They do remain. If there's a specific purpose fund that's set up, the dog park is a prime example. People spend yeoman's work, raising money to do that, and I'm fine with it. My only issue with it was actually the casino. I was on the doorstep. I didn't even know you were there because I was asking for the, and I didn't ask because I didn't want this. I can't keep hitting the same vendor all the time. And that's why this needs to be kind of a connection.
Well, that I can
Which
totally
is,
understand.
and believe me, I applaud all your efforts. I'm not being at all critical about you do a fabulous job fundraising, believe me. So you raised a bunch of money for the dog park. That money is earmarked for that dog park. So if it's not spent by the end of the year, it doesn't mean it goes away. It doesn't mean it definitely doesn't go to the general fund. It didn't come out of the general fund.
Right. Okay.
So the only ones that would go away are the ones where we appropriate monies that people get taxed for. So if we, like your $500 for the arts council, that money is good for the year, and by June 30th, if it hasn't been expended or obligated by some
Project or
encumbrance
use.
that the treasurer can account for.
Okay.
that's what we did the placemats for
Right.
last year.
Yep.
And the restaurants left them.
And then that money would go back to the general fund if it's not properly
From the
allocated.
allocation of the town. Okay,
But
that
any-
is
any private funds that are raised, like
right, for a purpose or
for
a
a
project.
purpose that they're set. And obviously the
They may
council's
remain.
endorsed the dog park. They've endorsed the town farm
Sure.
recreation.
Yeah, because some projects may take more than a year to
Yeah, they
be
absolutely-
realized, and so as we're accumulating the funds, I just wanted to have that clarified because that was really important. Well, so I think we have coming up, and we were going to talk a little bit about one of the projects next, which is a project in collaboration with the Recreation Commission as they are working on the renovation of Town Farm. There's an actual existing structure there, a play structure that won't serve a functional purpose anymore, but there's a lot of admiration for it on the part of the town. So they wanted to save it and see it repurposed.
Okay.
And what we are looking to do is to commission an artist who would take this piece and have it repurposed into what would be a new gateway signage for the north entrance to Town Farm. And we've talked to Stu, we've met on site. They're willing to contribute a couple $1,000s for the relocation and siting of it and temporary storage while the other work is going on. And so what we wanted to propose, and this is what I mentioned in the next part of the agenda, was to put out an RFP to do this. So it'd be a public art project. Been consulting with the State Arts Council on how best to do that, and to also have a third-party adjudicator, along with, we have some citizens and some local artists. But it would be a fairly lengthy process, I mean, it would take a few months to put it out, to receive, to review, then to be awarded. The final artist should be selected, and then, of course, to do the project. So we're talking about this would be installed next year if we could realize it, and also we'd have to raise the money. So what we've tried to do right now, and this would be part of a program of work then that we could submit to the town officially, and that's a special project. It's looking, in addition to the money that I believe the Recreation Department has, we're looking probably to raise around $5,000 or so to do this, which would include the commission to the artists, the materials and time and whatnot. And so that would be part of the program of work that we would do, and we have an outline of the RFP that we would look to send. And then additionally, we've talked about, there are two other things. Well, depending on, there's talk about how, once the town hall is open, if we re-engage the quarterly art gallery project. And that doesn't have a very large operational budget, but it does have some materials and supplies. So that would be included in a program of work with a budget. And we would try and program that out for a year so that it takes time to find the artists to do that. And doing it on, I think, on a quarterly basis makes sense. So the exhibition could be up for 3 months and then the changeover.
Well, we can do it like every other month. It was very, very difficult. We had it every month when I first started.
It's a little bit
And
much.
it was very, every once a month, your Sunday afternoon was tied up. And sitting here, and sometimes people didn't appear. As a matter of fact, in summer, our biggest attraction was the fact that we had a bathroom, and the people that go to Fort Barton came in to use the bathroom. So that's a thought. But whatever works, I'm fine with it.
No, I get it.
But like we had a request now for almost a year from the Florida Art Association. They want to come back in the Carolyn Hall. So I said, well, we don't even know when it opens, and we have some local things.
Yeah, so I think what we'll do is I think it might be best to start quarterly for our first time out, because we also have to plan a budget to do that and then do the call. And then there are two other things I think that are longer term, and we had talked about the next idea that Barbara had, and I sort of added to, which I thought was great, was kind of a landscape public art project, which would involve, much like Newport does daffodils, crocus or tulips, and that might be an opportunity to work with the garden club, and I think just some collaboration among other entities, and probably looking for in-kind donations in that case from like Wicked Tulip Farms or some nurseries, but also could involve citizens to get involved in the planting. But that again would be a long-term project.
If we could, if we can get wholesale an awful lot of crocus bulbs and have a free crocus bulb giveaway. And the reason I chose crocus is because they come up before anything else, and you don't have to cut around them and you mow in the spring.
There's no maintenance. Yeah. Well, and that could also.
And we had that Lafayette House, the front of the Lafayette House. I don't know if you were living in town then. That used to be an attraction. You must have been familiar with it.
A little bit. I think.
Right, where there was that massive crocus in the front lawn that everybody stopped and took pictures of. Lafayette House.
Yeah, I think it would be a destination kind of thing, and that the town could be. It's another reason to visit, sort of in the springtime. I think also maybe the economic development folks might want to get involved. It could be a multi-board, collaboration, and I think it's a simple thing to do.
So I think anytime there's a major focus on trying to do something, and there's going to be fundraising involved, the best thing to do is do things or get it before the time comes. Just kind of get their blessing to run.
Yep.
Because the issue, and then obviously some of the real technical issues is like who to fundraise from, when to fundraise from them. So, and I'll give you an example. Recreation is working pretty hard right now trying to do fundraising. The Cemetery Commission now wants to do pavers. The dog park now wants to do pavers. It seems like that every time something new comes up, everybody wants to adopt it. I'm like, they're all nice, they're all beautiful, but right now I've got a $375,000 grant that needs a match.
Yeah.
But, so it to me is the priority at the moment. The dog park has raised significant monies. I think that they'll get off the ground and will get built. But that we still will need some seed monies to help keep that maintained all the time, which will be fine. But the issue that I really have a problem with, and I'm not trying to offend anybody by this, but when we went through the town revaluation, the power plant was on a 20-year payment through a taxes program that came to an end. Well, their valuation in their mind is like at 50 million, and the town's at 150 million, and we're disputing. So to go to them and ask them for money while we're disputing with them makes it very difficult for us to work legally within the confines of trying to do what's right for all taxpayers, their tax base, without getting involved with some things that you really wouldn't have been privy to. So when you do major campaign contributions from bigger companies, there are times I need to know who you're dealing with.
Right, so we just like send you a note and say, is it okay? Or-
Yeah, that's, and most of the time we fine.
So what is the,
Yeah, I would say, just come in and see me and say, look, we're trying to raise money. Is it okay if I go over and see the casino? Is it okay, for any of us that we have a financial relationship with, at times it can be acrimonious or other times it can be very good.
Mhm.
So it's knowing the boundaries, and you would never know sometimes what the boundaries are when they're broken, because you're doing all kinds of good work outside of, you wouldn't even know the minutia of what goes on.
I'm sort of idealistic and think that, well, gee, and there are a lot of
Believe me, I
businesses,
get it.
yeah, and there are a lot of businesses in town that actually just love the town, and
They do.
people do love the town and want to see the town succeed and be a happy place regardless of their situation in it. And like Ryan McMurray from the power plant said, oh, I love dogs, I have a dog, and all of that, so that
No, so I think what we,
and it's like our son, he had a dispute with Tiverton for 15 years, but he still did the landscaping pro bono at Ranger and all of
No,
that.
they've done.
Totally
They've been very
different on
good.
a level,
They've been very good corporate partners with the town.
right? So,
But
it's a,
timing sometimes can be disjointed when we don't know what the.
so you can separate them, and people separate the thing.
well, I think the thing that he is saying is if we can be proactive about presenting,
Right.
here's what we want to do, here's what it's going to cost, and here's the list of businesses that we're going to go and solicit from. And then at least you see that, and it also is helpful because we could plot a year's worth of, so instead of going piecemeal, I need $2,000 here and $3,000 there, we could go
with the big
in
money.
one time with a request. And my last part is, and if individuals want to contribute, there's no issue with that as well, as long as they understand what.
So the only issue I have is with individuals, and and it's not really a big issue, it's when they are vendors of the town. So, we have some very good companies in town.
Yeah.
And what we don't want to do is create an appearance of impropriety that simply because they gave money that they got a contract. So there are times, and it's timing, it's not so much that it's not allowed, it's, let's say we're out to bid right now and we just did for the mowing, for the, and that landscape comes in and gives you $5,000 for a $20,000 project. It looks totally inappropriate. Like it's, so just appearance-wise, you would not want to take a contribution from somebody who has an offer on the table that hasn't been accepted yet. So that's why there are times there needs to be communication as to, can I solicit from this person? And it may be just bad timing, and I'll say, no, not right now, because they're bidding for a.
It's like Tiverton
Right,
materials.
yeah, so it's,
But
it is,
Yeah,
not that
I know the
don't want you to
personally,
do
so-
that, I just don't, it's the timing of it,
Okay.
just so it doesn't.
So
look-
we just need to have more of a process behind
Right.
and
Yes.
making it less relationship based, which is great.
Please.
Can I chime in at some point, Peter?
Sure, right ahead, Bill.
Okay, so I'm here. You can reach out to me at any point. I'm working closely with the Harbor Commission. I'm putting them on the agenda. Communication, that's pretty much, I think we're all trying to get to the point. So reach out to me. We'll put you on the agenda. We'll make you, I don't want to say more relevant, but in regards to funding, maybe you should appear on the agenda a little bit more and tell us what you're doing. And maybe we can allocate a little bit more money next year. So, I'm here, you know how to reach me. Please contact me and I'll work with Chris and we'll try to get you what you need when we can't. And if we can't, we'll tell you why.
Okay, well, so in terms of timing then, Chris, is there, well, I guess at this point, it's sort of,
it's kind of stuck where we are right now.
well, I think if what we should do is we can work together to kind of finalize our plan, put a budget to it. Would you mind, maybe Bill and Chris, just, just say, hey, let's take a look at this before we submit it to the council?
Yeah,
See if there are any questions
No,
about it.
absolutely. I'd rather you do that. That way, Stu, I'd rather Bill and I ask you the questions before you come before town council.
Yeah, no, that would be helpful, because again, I think there's just a lot of things in this process that we are not as aware of, and
There is.
quite honestly, we don't want to get mired in the weeds with that, so I'd rather just,
And I'm trying to keep you out of the weeds.
Yep.
And believe me, I've told all the efforts. I just don't, when we represent a community, we're actually a big government.
Yep.
And people love to throw darts at us simply because they can. And I get it. Social media has been some of our worst things of late, but every time you try to do something good, you'll find 10 people that think you're doing
Oh,
something
yeah.
totally, they should be doing that. That's not government work. It's, why they raise the money for this? That stuff doesn't bother me at all. But I can help get you around some of the stuff by making sure there are no rules. And I'm not that we've had that issue. It's just, I don't, had we collected from the power plant while we're in the middle of this, it really makes my job and my solicitor's job that much harder.
hard. No, and
So
we don't,
that's-
we want to be an asset to
No,
the
I
work
get
you're
it.
doing, and so this is
And
good.
you are an asset.
Yeah.
You're actually doing very, very good work.
Yeah.
Most
Well-
people would recognize. So actually being before the council, I think will actually give you more presence
Yeah.
and recognition of the things you're doing than being done and nobody even knows
Yeah.
you're doing it.
Well, and I also think, and to your point as well, Bill, if we come forward and we've got a year's worth of reasonable programming that we think we can achieve that shows how it's going to benefit the town, and here's, we understand the town may only be able to have 500, or maybe we get to $1,000 in a later year. But if they're at least on board with the idea, and that we're all clear on how we're soliciting these funds, what sources we're going to look toward in terms of federal, state, and private grants, in addition to local businesses, because that is the other thing. I think that we want to be careful that we don't tap out, because there are
there's
so
only
many
so much
needs
local,
that
yeah.
everybody's always, it's the same
So
suspects,
there
right?
is another funding source I'll address with you that it's been somewhat in limbo lately. And the council did a very good job of, over the last year, this whole gaming issue, that we've actually stripped out of the budgets to make sure that we didn't get impacted by it again by having another catastrophe where the gaming money went away and we
Right.
didn't have any way to make it up. But they're trying to create a board, to look at how do we actually use these funds. So earmarking some of that money, even if it's $5,000 or $10,000.
Yep.
For matching purpose. So
That-
and then.
That would
the
be
council,
huge.
But that's something that, we can advocate for as we go through the gaming money issue. And the council hasn't quite got that board together yet.
Yep.
But that would be a great focal point of trying to generate some monies to do the kind of things that you're trying to do.
I think that's great. The other thing, when we met with Stu, and this was a longer term vision, but I think it is about that kind of proactive thinking. And while there's a major investment right now at Town Farm, he would like to see more integration of arts. And so we talked about, in terms of some of the facility improvements they're making there, to be able to have an outdoor sculpture park or an outdoor art wall, because also having a gallery in here is a bit limiting to how many people will come.
It's totally limited. Only the people come here.
And
Exactly.
it's only on the walls, there's no
No, I-
three-dimensional.
So I think if we had a vision that was like a 3-year vision that said, this is what we're working toward, and we're trying to make it more publicly accessible and to do more programming, and especially where there's already a major investment on the.
10 years.
Exactly.
So that you can,
Yeah.
And I always think that, especially the Arts Council, could very well enhance, and I've been trying to do that, the historic preservation, because there's really very little signage for historic things in Tiverton, but
Right.
if you could engage the artists to
Bring more attention.
bring
to it.
more attention, even if it's a very modern sculpture for a historic site, it's getting both in a better perspective.
I totally believe in the arts. I think it's a great thing.
Okay. Well, I think this was really helpful, and I appreciate, unless anyone had any other, Bill, do you have something else you want to say about this part?
Couple of housekeeping issues. Number one, for the record, we didn't receive any kind of comments, either emails or mailed into the clerk's office. So there were no comments from residents. I'm assuming no one has called in, Peter, over the last half hour and,
We've not had any notice, and Chris is,
Nobody.
okay, and what about number 7? Have you worked with the library at all, in regards to that suggestion? Is that gonna happen, or is that not a possibility, or?
I
Barbara,
talked to the library and there's a very, very limited wall space. Only the one, when you come right into the lobby on the right-hand side, the maybe 4 by 4 foot area. But the librarians were quite willing to let us have the top of bookcases, certain
Good.
bookcases for 3-dimensional displays. So I think that we should make that known, that we can set up
there's an
something like that.
opportunity as well there. So we could write that in as well.
Yeah, I mean, you should maybe reach out to the farmer's market, maybe if they're willing to give you a table, and to reach out to artists there and see if they're willing to, just an informational type of thing, maybe to try to get the word out. I don't know how you get the word out, but you might wanna, the way you're gonna look to artists, to help you, with that exhibit. It was just a thought, but I did want to broach the subject.
That's a great thought, because maybe we could, in 1 or 2 of the summer farmers markets, actually be there and have something there where artists can bring their art. But on the other hand, are we allowed to promote artists? Because one of the big issues was, especially with Manager Reitzman, was that Itsy Bitsy Art Show and Sale. We had the word sale with it.
Oh,
And we
that-
had to cover it up because we are not allowed to market anything out of the town.
Right,
hall.
right. I don't think you're allowed to sell anything. You could always provide the artist information, and they could, but we're not allowed to exchange money or accept money. It's not a sale. It's just a free exhibit, but you are allowed, I would think, to
We didn't have-
provide the information to them so they can do their transaction privately.
But just on our publicity poster in here, there was just one poster, we had put the word sale, and I had to come and read.
Right, no, it's not a sale. It's just a free exhibit. It's just a free art exhibit. That's what we're looking for, but you're looking to get the word out to get those type of artists. So whether it be at a town council meeting, whether it be, whether the farmer's market or anybody, you can ask, make up a nice little flyer and see if you can put it in the library, see if they'd be willing to. The senior center, things like that, get the word out through a flyer, for those type of artists that you're gonna need to post the exhibit.
Well, what I think we'll do is when we'll regroup, because given how this has to play out, I think, we have 3 volunteers here, and there's a lot to do. And we need to focus our attention on what has the most impact and that we are all capable of doing with ourselves. But that is great. And I think those venues, in terms of promoting, whether it's the RFP for the town farm project, or I think our ability to produce a lot of events is very limited, because I think what we're trying to do is create opportunity with maximum impact. And so I think we're going to have to talk amongst ourselves to figure out what that.
You might want to reach out to, might be like Royal School Design. They have a lot of kids who now, not all kids, a lot of them are adults that are, trying to learn the arts and trying to, maybe there's a project they can do for you that, they may have better insights as to how to promote, some of the artists from around the state.
And Roger Williams has a theater department, doesn't it?
I believe it does.
Theater, maybe then closer, that would be.
Okay. Just looking to see.
I think we should engage the theater and the music part of it. I think that we're very limiting in just visual.
Well, I think that's the other thing, is that we'd like to include more performing arts and not just the visual arts. And
So just on performing arts, and I don't have an issue with it. My wife and I go to the, four of our little theater, we've been members for 40 years. They've established work that they do, and they're great artists. Right now, and I know we're coming out of it, this whole COVID thing has really limited us trying to have public events.
right.
But hopefully in another month or so, that starts to go away, and we can start to have more things out public.
Well, and again, I think that in
But it's tough-
combination with,
That's tough to plan for right now.
yeah, and I think it's a longer term kind of strategy, but again, with recreation or something where there's being able to host a couple of performing arts groups at outdoor town functions would be great.
Or even just show an arty movie.
Yeah, a film series. We
Yeah,
could do.
or just a couple of movies a year, the summer.
I don't think our problem is going to be running out of ideas. I think it's about what are
Funding
we,
them.
No,
what are we able to actually
this
implement?
past year, that would have been a great idea. Like, we could use Pod and Grade to have a big theater,
Yeah.
stay in the car and.
The drive-in was a big thing for a lot of arts groups over the pandemic, you know. All right, so in terms of schedule then, if we were to put a draft of kind of our program of work and a budget and what we need to raise with these 3 or 4 key ideas over the course of, let's give ourselves a year, and come back with a draft for Bill and Chris to review, how far ahead to get on the town council docket?
So it's, couple of weeks, like 2 weeks. Every Monday there's a meeting.
Yeah.
The agenda closes Tuesday before. So the agenda meeting with the council president, town clerk, town solicitor, and on that Tuesday, they set what's going to be heard on the following Monday.
Okay.
So it's the week before the meeting, the Tuesday. So you're trying to, and they really can't, once the agenda sets, it's not much.
Right. So I'm thinking if we, let's bring up a calendar here so we can have dates in mind. So you said, I'm sorry, tonight is a town council meeting? So the next one would be the 24th. And then following that,
It's the second and fourth Monday of every month.
So it'll be the Tuesday before the second. And if it's a Monday, it's a holiday, it's the Tuesday after the holiday.
so June 14th would mean, which I think would be reasonable in terms of getting something together, getting it to you, and then having the Tuesday before to post. So if we aimed for the,
You'd have to have whatever you want.
I'm sorry, Monday is June 7th.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we were trying to aim for the June 7th, Barbara,
Yeah.
town council meeting,
Yeah.
we'd want to get something to Chris and Bill in the next week to review. They could make comments, and then we could, and the submission process for that goes to the clerk.
Or the council president, or Bill can actually.
Or Bill,
submit
you
it
could-
to the council president.
Once we have a draft, you could submit that, Bill, on our behalf.
I can put that on the agenda for the next upcoming town council meeting, yes.
Okay.
And in any documentation you have, present it. I can present that to the council as a backup material so they know what they're referring to.
Are there any other concerns that either of you gentlemen have that we should be aware of?
Well, it's, obviously, communication, like Bill said, is the number one issue. I have no issue with anything you guys have been doing. I think you do a great job. It's, I know we haven't had anybody in here in a while, and it would be nice to change everything out, but, obviously, and I'm sure you'll get a group in for the first time we're open. Hopefully, we'll give you some advance notice.
Well, Susan Anderson is working hard on a visual display of pictures of lost structures that used to be in town. So that was actually our plan for the next exhibit, and
I've got some artwork that we're gonna put in the hallways, like the restrooms, and they're
Oh,
all,
that's
they're all
great,
pictures of Tiverton structures.
Yeah.
They're all laying around
And you know, guys, I think the more you do and the more successful you become over the years, it'll be easier to recruit. I can't really comment on the recreational committee, but I would imagine the bigger they get, the easier it is to recruit because people want to be a part of that. So I think as you get bigger and as you present more to the town, it'll be easier to recruit, and that may be also a benefit in regards to helping you provide services.
Well, years ago when I was on Discover Newport, I was intrigued by that project that Block Island has, finding the hand-blown glass floats that they put out 500 of them. So I had always wanted to do something. This spring, I got hold of 20 of these for free. To me, they look like hamsters, but I'm thinking we can hide them in 20 locations. Is that okay with everyone? I'll just put them. And the thing is, if you find them, keep them, and that's it. Just to get something going in the community. And I think that
Everything all set? Yeah. Clear up.
that if people get to talk about things happening that they can be involved in, I think it can be a mushrooming thing. It's like with the historic, we made the placemats. The placemats were a sort of coloring, but they have facts about the town, and people can start talking about them, especially if you have a very dull dinner mate. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a way to engage more people.
Right.
All right, yeah, well, so we will get together and frame what and then send something, unless there's
Now, if
any
there's
other.
Individual project, like another placement project, and we don't have that money in our budget, can we then solicit that money from certain people? Because we can't really ask a restaurant, can you give us $50 to have your name on there? Because then we become partial. Because at first I thought we could fund it through people saying I buy $20 or $50 little
I think
space.
what we should do is focus on what it is we're gonna do
Yeah, all right.
and then have a plan, because this gets back to the piecemeal thing and it's a little bit,
Right.
but so let's regroup and we'll come up with what our plan is and then a budget plan for that, and we'll get clarity from Chris and Bill, and then we can just solicit those dollars for those projects. All right. Is there any other business?
No, I'm good. Just keep lines of communication open. I hope you feel comfortable speaking to me and talking to me and engaging with me. And I thank Chris for being here today and clarifying some issues. His support is always appreciated, and we look forward to a better year. Thank you for all you guys do, and please keep up the communications. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and your effort will be most appreciated to keep us out of the weeds and on track. So thank you so much. If there are no objections, take a motion to adjourn. Excellent. All in favor, yay.